Welcome to Hawthorn University's webinar series, everyone. I'm Paula Bartholomew, and it's a pleasure to facilitate this production. Today, David Crow returns to teach us about combining herbs with essential oils. Hello, David. It's great to have you back with us at Hawthorn.
Thank you, Paula. It's great to be back.
I know, and it's an exciting presentation, too. We're going to go into exploring how essential oils and aromatherapy can be integrated with herbal treatments for added therapeutic effect and benefits. We're going to explore which essential oils can be safely combined with herbs according to therapeutic functions. Now, David's going to go into teaching when and how essential oils and aromatherapy are a primary or an adjunct or a contraindicated treatment, and he will help us understand the compatibility or lack thereof of specific groups and species of essential oils and herbs, and will demonstrate combinations of herbs and essential oils for specific therapeutic benefits. Now, if you don't know of David Crow's work, let me say you're in for a real treat here. And here's why he's teaching today. David's an acupuncturist and an herbalist with over 30 years of experience. He's the author of one of my favorite books, Search of the Medicine Buddha. It's a book about his studies of Tibetan and Ayurvedic medicine in the Himalayas. He's a well-known lecturer in the field of natural medicine, and his work is largely focused on the synthesis of botanical medicine, ecology, and spirituality. He's the founder of Floracopia, a company that supports ecologically sustainable agriculture through the production of essential oils and aromatic treasures. Thank you for being here, David.
Thank you, Paula. Welcome to everybody, and thank you for your interest in this very challenging and new area of natural medicine, which is combining essential oils and herbs. Now, this is the page that you have already seen. This is basically just the introduction of what we're going to cover. And if you have taken the time to look over this file, I don't know if you received that previously or not, but if we do the math on this, it means we have about 2 minutes per page. So it's going to go really fast. I'm basically just going to give a summation of information. And there's a lot of lists of herbs and essential oils with sample combinations and some discussion about why certain essential oils and herbs may or may not work together. So this is the overview of what we're doing. I'm just going to go ahead and start scrolling through here. Okay, so Paula, is that scrolling working okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm just questioning this because we had a few technical challenges at the beginning. Now, here's our introduction of what we are going to be covering. First, I am going to give general suggestions for how to safely use different therapeutic groups of essential oils. So this is a continuation from our previous 2 classes where we were looking at larger therapeutic categories. But it's not going to give detailed methods of using the oils. This is very broad. And so for detailed uses, you should refer back to our previous classes. And it also does not give specific dosages for the uses of herbs. In other words, we're just looking at general therapeutic categories of herbs and general therapeutic categories of essential oils. And I'm assuming that you know from the previous trainings how to safely use the essential oils from different categories, and that you have some background in herbal medicine, at least enough to understand dosages and so forth. I do give a few sample recipes, but just to reiterate from the last 2 classes, please do not take essential oils internally, and I will explain a little bit more about that in this class. And do not apply undiluted to the skin. I will give the safe methods over again, however, just to refresh your memory. Now we come to an immediate challenge in doing this course, which is how do we know what the essential oils actually do? Well, we have several sources of information. This is just a quick review for you here. If we look at the empirical history of the use of the aromatic plants that contain essential oils, then we can get a historical background on how those herbs used to be used and what they were known for. And so in many cases, we have centuries and centuries of empirical evidence. For example, people know that lavender is relaxing because they have been using lavender tea for centuries. We know chamomile is anti-inflammatory because we've been using chamomile tea for centuries. But there are many, many claims that are made about essential oils, and a lot of these claims are either erroneous, sometimes just plain fraudulent, or there is no real substantiation for it. A lot of this is coming from the marketing department of essential oil companies, and a lot of it has to do with a crossover between in vivo and in vitro research. This is where a lot of the confusion comes from. I'll give you a very quick example. There have been hundreds of people asking over the last period of time, how do I use frankincense to cure cancer? Well, this is just a rumor, basically. There is no evidence that frankincense cures cancer. There have been some studies where a specific species of frankincense resin has been distilled in a specific way, and that oil, excuse me, has been used in a petri dish in very controlled scientific settings against standardized lineages of specific cancer cells, and those results have found that the oil is inhibiting to those cells. Now, that has no relevance whatsoever for treating cancer in the human body. You would have to drink so much essential oil of frankincense to get your blood levels up to where those compounds got into the cancer cells in the way that they did in the lab that you would die of liver failure. So that's where a lot of the information is coming from. And then, of course, when a study like that is referenced, then the next thing that happens is that all over the internet you see that frankincense oil cures cancer. So a lot of these claims are very dubious, and there are also many problems classifying essential oils in the same way as classifying herbs, because they're not used in the same way. They're used through the olfactory system. They cannot be taken internally without a high risk, and because they come in through the olfactory system, they tend to be very subjective in their effects, and therefore it's actually very difficult to start to say this oil does this. And the reason I'm taking a moment to explain this at the beginning is you're going to see these lists of oils in this presentation. Mucolytic oils, this oil and that oil and this oil and that oil. Well, how did they come to be known as mucolytic oils? Well, a lot of it is conjecture. Quite honestly, a lot of the therapeutic applications and claims about essential oils are partly educated choices and statements, but a lot of it is very new, okay? And this is something that we should also consider. Aromatherapy has not been around for thousands of years. It has really just become well known in the last decade or two. And so that means we don't know a lot about what these essential oils do. Now you'll see here, I gave the example of lavender. Well, lavender is claimed to be relaxing. Well, some people find lavender strongly relaxing, and some people find it mildly relaxing sometimes, and some people actually find it stimulating. That's the problem with classifying essential oils. It is very difficult to actually say this oil does exactly that. Now, the last point here, in some conditions, the essential oils and aromatherapy are a primary treatment. We discussed that in the past classes. In most cases, they can be indirectly supportive, and in some cases, they are not effective and should not be advocated or attempted. And those are specifically deeper metabolic or chronic degenerative conditions. And there's a lot of statements that are being made that are so fraudulent that the FDA is now stepping in and saying you cannot claim that essential oils will cure cancer. You cannot claim that they will cure diabetes. These are deeper metabolic, chronic degenerative conditions. And so therefore, essential oils always have a place in some treatment. They can be very beneficial and supportive, but they are not a primary treatment. Okay, that's the introduction. Now moving on, we're going to start with our first category here. These are 4 classes of herbs that work on the respiratory system: expectorant, mucolytic, decongestant, and antitussive. Expectorant means that the herb or the drug or the essential oil, mostly we're talking about pharmaceutical compounds, or we're talking about herbs that have a long history of use. That is one of the primary differences with herbal medicine and aromatherapy, is that herbs have, in many cases, centuries and centuries of documentation and widespread use. In some cases in Chinese medicine, for example, there's written references to certain herbs that go back over 1,000 years, 2,000 years. There's no such thing with essential oils. So the definition of an expectorant: it works by signaling the body to increase the amount of hydration or the secretions. And that helps to basically bring up the phlegm that's in the chest. Now the herbs, and this is an important point here, the herbs primarily contain essential oils that do that: saponins and mucilage. Mucilage such as slippery elm, something mucilaginous, marshmallow root. So the expectorant herbs here are listed. One of the best: licorice, mullein, slippery elm, and so forth. But you'll also see that there's a number of aromatic herbs such as oregano, thyme, and fennel. And that's where the link with aromatherapy and essential oils comes in, because those essential oils we can now link back to the historical basis. And we see that, okay, people knew that if you drank oregano tea or you used fennel in your cooking, that it would have an expectorant type of function. And so we can extrapolate quite safely and accurately that if we use these essential oils in a diffuser, direct palm inhalation, a few drops on the palms, steam inhalation, a few drops on a compress, those essential oils will have an expectorant function. Now, the primary essential oils for respiratory condition, I should say, excuse me, let me rephrase that. Essential oils are a primary treatment for respiratory conditions. We will see that in some conditions they are not. But for respiratory conditions, we use the diffuser, steam inhalation, compress, palm inhalation. And the reason that it's a primary treatment is because the essential oils basically come directly in contact with the mucous membranes of the sinuses and lungs. That's one of the few systems where essential oils come in direct contact without the danger of having to pass through the digestive mucous membrane, which is very problematic. It has been found that low-grade inhalation of essential oils from a diffuser has more long-term expectorant effects, whereas steam inhalation has more immediate decongestant effects. Decongestant means clears the sinuses. So the expectorant oils, and here again, I just want to mention that there's a few things that I would say, yes, absolutely, these are definitely expectorant. I'm including some of these because of the link with the aromatic herbs, but I will also point out that some of these are probably still conjecture. But the point is that essential oils and aromatic compounds are most likely going to be expectorant in general. So these are all pretty good, safe guesses here. The basals, that includes Tulsi, some of the carminative seeds like cardamom and fennel. And I want to bring one of these to your attention here, which is very well known as one of the best expectorants in the world of aromatherapy. And it does have some references back to European studies. And this is the inula. Now, inula is very expensive and it's hard to get, but it is one of the best expectorants. So there's your list. And here's a sample, a couple of sample combinations here. What do we do with this information? Why don't you make some Tulsi ginger tea? I'm not giving specific doses here because I'm assuming that you know how to make Tulsi ginger tea. Drink some of that 2 to 4 times a day. I'm assuming you know dosages, that you're not going to drink 3 cups 2 to 4 times a day. You're probably going to drink a half a cup 2 to 4 times a day. You can use steam inhalation. I'm just giving you some sample recipes here from the list. Steam inhalation with pinon pine, that would be one of my favorites. Steam inhalation means you put a couple drops on a pot of hot water, cover your head with a towel, and you breathe it. You keep your eyes closed so it doesn't burn you. And you can then put cardamom and eucalyptus essential oils in a diffuser. That's an entire program there that combines essential oils and herbs, and that will give you a glimpse into the rest of this presentation, how this works. Another possibility is you can get an expectorant cough syrup. Frequently they contain mullein and or wild cherry bark. Those are both mucilaginous expectorants. And you can take a spoon of that, or as directed, 2 to 4 times a day. You can combine it with Tulsi tea or any of the aromatic teas. And you can do a chest compress with a couple drops of cedar oil or spruce essential oils. All right, that's our first topic there. Mucolytics are those that dissolve thick mucus and help to relieve respiratory conditions. A few of the more well-known mucolytic herbs are mullein, again, horehound and elecampane. Now keep in mind that there's a lot of crossover in therapeutic functions with herbs, and there's even more crossover with the essential oils. So here we have some mucolytic oils that include cedar, as I just gave, and of course eucalyptus you would think of right away for respiratory conditions. And you could also think of some of the other conifers, spruce, pine, fir, juniper, things like that, and some of the antimicrobial oils such as robin sar. So here's another sample combination. You could take a mucolytic cough syrup that would contain something like mullein again. You could take a 1 teaspoon 3 times a day. You could do a chest compress. That means 2 drops each of fir, helichrysum, inula essential oils. And you would just put that on a hot wet towel, put it on your chest, and then you could have Tulsi and rosemary essential oil in the diffuser. So I think you're starting to see the pattern here. You basically just have a large list of possibilities, but in order to really apply this clinically, you really need to do the research and learn the individual herb functions more specifically, because even though we're looking at these broader categories, they do have different strengths and weaknesses for different cases, but that's really clinical herbology. What I'm giving you are general recommendations. Now you'd say, well, what about helichrysum? What's it doing in there? That's a famous essential oil for the skin. It's famous for wounds and improving circulation and treating pain and trauma, and that's true, but it has also been found, and this is something that's coming out in recent research, that it has a very nice effect on clearing the chest with congestion. Okay, moving on, we look at the decongestants. This is something that clears the sinuses. That's a simple definition. Now, this is one of the really strong aspects of aromatherapy, and it makes perfect sense because essential oils are going to go directly into the sinuses and they're going to be immediately effective. And so in many ways, aromatherapy, specifically the application of steam inhalation, a couple drops, 1 or 2 drops is all you need, because you're going to put your face right down in it, and it could burn your skin, it could burn your eyes if you put more than that. 1 or 2 drops on a pot of hot water, cover your head with a towel, breathe it slowly, keep your eyes closed. That obviously is going to be direct treatment, direct contact with the mucous membranes. You're not going to have to wait for the herbs to go through your stomach and your intestines and your liver and the blood and go back to the respiratory system and so forth. It's going to work immediately. However, we do have good decongestant herbs. Holy basil is a good herb to take as a tea, and elderflower and rosemary, the mints and ginger and so forth. Aromatic plants do work nicely as teas, and then you combine them with the conifers again, and eucalyptus and rosemary. Basically what you're doing is you're just using the same plants in different forms here. You're chewing the cardamom seeds, and then you're putting a couple drops of cardamom on a pot of hot water and breathing it. Here's a couple sample combinations. The Tulsi ginger tea, 2 to 4 times a day, steam inhalation with eucalyptus and lavender. Lavender is nice for the sinuses because it's cooling and anti-inflammatory. Or you could take rosemary tea a couple times a day, which is also going to be very good for your brain and your memory and your concentration. It'll help you learn this kind of information very quickly. And then you could do steam inhalation with cardamom. There's a few examples. And Here, we're just going to pass over this. This is just reference material. Several of these pages are full of reference material. This is what we would call a synergy of different essential oils. Now, for treating the common cold, the essential oils are very important. And so what you have here are groups of therapeutic classifications of essential oils. For example, respiratory, eucalyptus and laurel. You have things from the spice category. You have things from the conifer category. You have a few antimicrobials. You have some citruses, and you have some anti-inflammatories. So these are therapeutic categories. Now, what do you do with these? Well, you can take 5 parts of eucalyptus, 3 parts tea tree, 3 parts Ravensar. You pick one from each category according to the different functions that you want, and then you have what's called the synergy. So you would have that blend of eucalyptus, tea tree, and Ravensar, and then what you would do is you would put that into your diffuser or dilute it appropriately for the bath or put on the compress. So there's a list there of how you can, different oils that you can choose from. Let's move on. Now we're moving into a completely different group of herbs and oils. And this is where things start to become a little bit more problematic because we're not treating the respiratory system, which is very direct anymore. Now we are working through the limbic system, through the sense of smell, which is very subjective. So we're talking about the Nervine relaxant, the sedative, and the anxiolytic herbs. And herbs in these categories frequently cross over. You often find that there are herbs that have Nervine tonic, Nervine relaxant properties, and those are frequently sedative, and they're also frequently anxiolytic. But we also see that herbs are also classified more specifically. Now, because aromatherapy massage as a primary treatment for relaxation is very effective, we can combine essential oils to support all of these functions. Because if we're looking at these 3 basic functions, Nervine, relaxant, sedative, and anxiolytic, what are we trying to do with the herbs? We're just trying to relax. That's basically it. So aromatherapy is definitely very relaxing, especially aromatherapy bath, aromatherapy massage. So we can combine aromatherapy and essential oils very nicely, but it gets difficult if you try to actually make any more specific claims other than aromatherapy is relaxing. And this is one of the things that you see frequently with the modern research studies that are coming out. You see these studies over and over again. Aromatherapy with massage helps tension. Aromatherapy with massage helps with uterine dysmenorrhea pain. Aromatherapy with massage helps relieve anxiety. You see that aromatherapy massage is highly effective, but then all the studies end the same way. They say it's difficult to know if the mechanism is the aromas or the massage. And so therefore we can just say, well, all right, it doesn't matter. It's a supportive treatment. So our first class is Nervine relaxant. And these herbs are those that strengthen the nervous system, but also relax it. And these are very good for overstimulation, tension associated with fatigue and exhaustion. And a few of the herbs here, some of the famous Nervine relaxants. Chamomile relaxes your nervous system. Lemon balm relaxes your nervous system. Linden flower, and then motherwort and skullcap work a little bit deeper. Motherwort is really very good for nervous tension for women associated with the endocrine system, and skullcap is really a very significant relaxant in the nervous system. Ashwagandha, a nervous system relaxant, and St. John's wort is also a nervous system relaxant. Now we come to the question of, well, how can we decide which oils are we going to use? Because probably any oils in a massage, other than strongly overusing and abusing something like cinnamon oil, probably just about any essential oil that a person enjoys in a massage will have a relaxing effect. So it becomes difficult to say specifically this is a relaxing Nervine oil. But we can, again, pick according to the traditional uses. And we can say, well, chamomile, definitely. Clary sage is very, very important. If I was going to give you the main one in this particular list, I would say clary sage is the most important. Lavender is right up there, but studies have shown that clary sage is actually more powerful as a relaxant than lavender. Sample combinations for general stress and tension. How about some chamomile and lemon balm tea 2 to 4 times a day? Combine that with a little meditation practice. That's probably all you need. But you could also take a dropper of the ashwagandha tincture to strengthen and relax your nervous system 2 times a day. And then if you could get somebody to give you a massage a couple times a week with vetiver and clary sage oil, you are going to have a very nice Nervine relaxant experience. Now, sedatives are stronger in action, and they work more directly on the nervous system. And this is where you really start to see the difference between herbs and essential oils, because we have very strong sedative herbs, and those include hops and cannabis, and those are in the same family, actually. Hops is in the Cannabaceae family. And then, of course, CBD oil, cannabidiol oil, which is very popular and getting really good results for a lot of people. And then we have a stronger sedative herb like valerian. Passion flower is very nice. Kava kava, strongly sedative. California poppy, skullcap, mild but effective sedative, and wood betony. Here's where we run into problems of translation here. Sedative oils don't do the same things that sedative herbs do. And neither herbs or oils work as strongly as the pharmaceuticals. And so this is something that is challenging for people if they really need strong sedation. They're frequently not going to get it with most herbal teas. They will get it from the cannabis products, but they're probably not going to get it from aromatherapy. However, we can say that some of the more sedating essential oils are going to be agarwood and cedarwood and cistus, and again, clary sage, one of the major ones. So a few combinations here. General tension and stress, 5 drops of passion flower tincture 6 to 8 times a day. Notice that recipe. 5 drops is not very much of tincture. So what I am advocating is that you take a very small dose of this relaxant herb several times throughout the day. Now that's much more effective than just being stressed out and anxious all day long and then going to bed and trying to knock yourself out. Take something relaxing all day long. Take a bath or get a massage with lavender, clary sage, and chamomile essential oils. Now here's one that you might want to explore to support your meditation, and this is going to be a stronger sedating effect, is to use the agarwood chips or the powder in an incense heater. It's a very nice relaxing fragrance. Take a small dose of CBD oil a couple times a day. Although it can be a little overheating, it does have some toxic side effects that are not particularly good for you, but they're definitely effective for sedation. Drink the lemon balm tea 2 to 4 times a day, and then how about wearing rose and sandalwood oil as a perfume? I would say that sounds like a whole lifestyle right there. Anxiolytic. Anxiolytic are the herbs that help reduce anxiety. These herbs tend to work fairly consistently. It's a little bit difficult to figure out which oils are going to work, but for some people, some oils work really well. Keep in mind that chronic anxiety frequently is a situation where we must do our karmic homework, and we have to understand, where did I pick up these patterns? How did I learn this? Why am I reacting these ways? What are the memories that are associated with this? Why can't I relax? We need to use herbal medicine to support us in doing our own homework to change ourselves. We cannot expect that herbs are going to just get rid of anxiety, and we cannot expect essential oils to do that either. But we can use these herbs and essential oils to help us relax consciously, and by doing that over and over again, we can retrain our nervous systems. So here's some anxiolytic herbs. The reishi mushroom actually is very anxiolytic. Most people wouldn't think of it, but in Chinese medicine they say it's very full of shen, full of spirit. And actually, if you take some reishi mushroom tincture and just sit with it and listen to it in the body, you will notice that it has a very, very tranquilizing effect. And then, of course, there's some of the milder anxiolytic herbs like catnip and chamomile and motherwort again. Milky oats is very important for nourishing the nervous system, which is usually exhausted when there's anxiety. And of course, anxiety depletes the nervous system, and a depleted nervous system is prone to anxiety. And again, you'll see that these herbs are The same as some of the relaxant and the sedative herbs because they help with anxiety. Here's another good one for you here. Gotu kola is very good for strengthening the nervous system. It's good for the brain. Now we come to the problem again, anxiolytic oils. Well, which of these oils are actually going to get rid of anxiety? Well, they're not, unless you really have a personal reaction to them. We can't say that if you gave 100 people with moderate anxiety lavender oil in a diffuser, that it's going to give significant benefits. It will give significant benefits to a certain percentage. It'll give moderate benefits to probably a larger percentage, and a lot of people won't notice anything. So there's one that I didn't put here, and I'm sorry, you could make a note of this. There's one that I do have personal and clinical experience with that I want to share with you, and that is the Palo Santo. If you put 2 to 3 drops of Palo Santo essential oil on your palms, rub them together, inhale it from your palm, it does have a significant anxiolytic effect. And it is fairly predictable and repetitious. So that is one of the stronger ones. So here are some sample combinations. We don't have to take any time to really go through this. This is just for your reference. And so now we come to an example of a group of herbs and essential oils that really don't mix at all. And that is the demulcent herbs. Demulcent and emollient. Demulcent means for the internal use in the body, for moistening inwardly, and emollient means moistening on the skin. Now, the reason that demulcent and emollient herbs don't work with essential oils is because they are completely different in nature. So demulcent herbs, if you look at the list here, you'll see that they're mucilaginous, they're slimy, they're thick. They're basically supporting the mucous membranes of the respiratory system and the digestive tract. Slippery elm, comfrey root, flaxseed, marshmallow root, licorice root, things like that, aloe vera gel. They're actually slimy and hydrating. They're very good for the mucous membrane. Now, you can't say that about essential oils. As a matter of fact, the epidemic of adverse reactions that's happening from people misusing essential oils is because they have the exact opposite nature. So the nature of essential oils chemically is they're a solvent. They're in the family of compounds that would be considered a solvent. Now, a solvent is like gasoline. It will dissolve cells and tissues. And so if you take essential oils internally, you run the risk of inflaming your oral mucosa first, and then inflaming your esophagus next, and then inflaming your stomach next. And if you keep doing it thinking, oh, you're having a detox reaction, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, you're going to end up with some serious mucosal damage. And this, unfortunately, is happening quite a lot. And that's because the oils are doing exactly the opposite of what demulcent herbs do. They are not hydrating and moistening, they're actually eroding and inflaming. So therefore, I'm giving you this as an example of some herbs and essential oils that don't combine. However, there is one use that we do see, and that is that essential oils are used in carrier oils for massage oil. And the massage oil itself, the carrier oil, is hydrating. It is emollient, okay? And sometimes we also see that the aromatic herbs as teas are taken when there is also congestion and the need for a demulcent or an expectorant of some type. And so you frequently see that there'll be a little tiny bit of thyme essential oil that's inside a demulcent cough syrup, for example. And the demulcent cough syrup is basically going to be moistening to the respiratory mucous membranes, but there'll be a little bit of aromatic in it. And it can be taken with ginger tea to support the expectoration. There's only 3 essential oils that I will classify as having the potential to be hydrating to the skin, and that is rose, sandalwood, and vetiver. They are not hydrating for the internal mucous membranes of the digestive tract, however, except for the rose when taken in herbal form. All right, let's move on. Antispasmodic and analgesic. And Paula, let me just interrupt just for a moment. Is there any flexibility on how long we go with this?
Yes, what do you need?
Well, I don't know. I mean, are we scheduled to stop in 10 minutes, or can I get away with another extra 10 minutes?
Of course, yes. By all
Okay,
means.
great. All right, I think that should do it.
Okay.
Let's look at the antispasmodic and analgesic herbs. Now, again, we have the basic problem. How effective are essential oils for antispasmodic and analgesic purposes? And sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. So what's the definition? An antispasmodic herb or an essential oil work to relax the nervous system. They tend to work more effectively as herbs. Herbs are very effective in treating spasmodic conditions in different systems. And so we see that the aromatic herbal teas can be combined because teas such as ginger tea or tulsi tea are very antispasmodic for the digestive system, specifically if you get digestive cramps or you have a chronic spasmodic cough in the respiratory system. So the aromatic herbs do have some benefits and classical uses, which means that there's some role for the essential oils. And so the essential oils can be used to support the antispasmodic effects of the herbs in the digestive, the respiratory, and the musculoskeletal systems, but they don't work at the deeper physiological levels that herbs do. You take the antispasmodic herbs, you look at the list here, and what I've given you here is another way of classifying things. There's a lot of antispasmodic herbs, and so we put them in different classifications according to different systems. And so you'll see here lists of herbs that are antispasmodic for the digestive system: chamomile, peppermint, things like that. Urinary, antispasmodic, cramp bark, wild yam, kava kava. Reproductive, cramp bark, wild yam, black cohosh. Musculoskeletal, kava kava. General, California poppy, and again, lemon balm, passion flower. So this breaks down the herbs from the greater category of antispasmodic into specific systems. Essential oils don't do that because of the method of ingestion, which is basically through the skin, which will be in massage oils for treating the musculoskeletal spasms and pain, or it'll be for general relaxation through the olfactory system, and that's it. They're not going to be processed by the brain. They're not going to be processed by the nerve endings of the digestive system. So the antispasmodic oils are going to include the relaxant oils: agarwood, angelica, basil, chamomile, clary sage. Now, a lot of this, again, will be indirect. Okay, so for example, chamomile is a relaxing essential oil, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's powerful enough to be antispasmodic. But on the other hand, if you drink chamomile tea and you put a couple drops of chamomile essential oil on a wet towel, warm wet towel, and you put it on your abdomen, the chamomile oil will be absorbed a little bit through the tissues of the belly, and you'll also be breathing it. And so the chamomile oil can support the chamomile tea in its antispasmodic effect in the digestive tract. So here's a few sample combinations. We'll just skip over this and leave this here for you to read, but you can see that it's the aromatic teas and abdominal compress. Now, abdominal compress can be very effective for digestive cramping. You will also see that abdominal compress can be very good for uterine cramping as well. And so here's a combination for dysmenorrhea. Chamomile and peppermint tea does wonders for uterine cramping and painful periods. 2 to 4 times a day, take a dropper of the black cohosh tincture and or the cramp bark tincture. Very simple recipe. So I hope that you are starting to understand how I'm thinking here in combining these things. You are not going to take chamomile oil internally. You're going to use it safely on the abdomen, but you can drink the chamomile tea quite safely. Now, analgesics are herbs and essential oils that reduce or eliminate pain. Herbs definitely can do that, but they are nowhere near as strong as the over-the-counter or prescription medications, and that's good. They shouldn't be. They are also much more effective at speeding up the healing process than the over-the-counter medications, and certainly the opioid medications, prescriptions that are being widely abused, misused, overprescribed, and too readily available. As we know, epidemic of mortality from opioids. But we cannot just say, all right, take these herbs instead, just drink chamomile tea for the strong pain. It's just not going to work. So therefore, we have to look at this on a very individual case-by-case basis, and many times when there is some significant pain, we will see that the herbs can work. Now, one of the herbs that is most important here is the cannabis again, and that is why it's becoming well known. The medical cannabis and the CBD oil, which is effective, but in many cases it's not as effective as the THC containing cannabis products. Cannabis is probably the strongest legal. Certainly the CBD is legal. Many states now, as we know, have legal medical cannabis. It's probably the strongest legal analgesic herb that we have. The other herb that is very, very strong, of course, is the opium, which we don't have, and that's where the morphine comes from. But that's a different subject. So here's a list, and again, I've broken it down here for primary herbs for specific types of pain. This can be very helpful for migraine, for example, feverfew, white willow bark. Wood betony is really, really excellent for head pain of all types. Fibromyalgia, and then also some specific things that the herbs do. St. John's wort's very good for nerve pain. Wood betony is very, very good for muscle spasms. Kava kava is very good for muscle spasm. Now, with the essential oils, analgesic oils, what are we going to do with this? Well, the one or two oils that definitely have well-known, well-established analgesic functions are birch oil and wintergreen oil. These, however, are toxic oils. These are found in over-the-counter hot and cold type of recipes, formulas like Tiger Balm and things like that. Athletic salves, frequently combined with menthol. These two oils should be used very, very sparingly in great dilutions. Athletes have poisoned themselves by using wintergreen and birch products excessively for muscle aches and pains and strains and joint problems and so forth. I'm giving you a list here also of herbal carrier oils. Sorry, a typo there. It's carrier oils. And salves for musculoskeletal blends. And these are things that you can basically find online. Various companies, herbal companies, have different blends of trauma oil. They're basically infused herbal oils of arnica and calendula and St. John's wort. From Ayurveda, we have the Mahanarayan oil, which is herbs that are cooked in sesame oil. We have salves that are created from balm of Gilead, which is the cottonwood resin. And then we have the CBD oil. Now, these can be a base for putting some of these essential oils in and then using that externally. And here's another list here: general musculoskeletal essential oils. Birch, wintergreen, chamomile, frankincense. Helichrysum, I would say, is very, very important, very, very effective and good essential oil. So what you would do then is you would start with something like Mahanarayan oil, and you might want to add a couple extra drops of lavender, a couple extra drops of wintergreen, 1 drop wintergreen, and then apply that. Now, here's another list: symptom-specific oils. Do these oils really treat sprains and strains specifically better than other oils? This is a kind of information that's out there in the aromatherapy world, and different teachers say different things, and different clinicians have different things that they like. I would say that that's pretty much the state of the art. It's not clearly established that there's any real significant benefit of using juniper berry over marjoram for sprains and strains. They're probably all going to be helpful. But this is a list of some of the things that you can find, and it's probably all effective. Possible combinations: Mahanarayan oil. You can add a couple essential oils. Black pepper is a good one. Eucalyptus is amazingly anti-inflammatory and antispasmodic, actually, for the muscles. We think of it as an oil for the lungs, but it's very, very good for the musculoskeletal system as well. Tincture of ashwagandha, relax the nervous system, relax the muscles. And then a nice combination for migraines here. Okay, antimicrobial. Antimicrobial herbs are used according to different systems. And there's a list here: elderberry, myrrh, garlic is strongly antimicrobial. But again, we have to look at each herb on a case-by-case basis and each infection on a case-by-case basis. But the most important point to take away here is that essential oils are strongly antimicrobial. But again, we see so much research coming out about all of these antimicrobial functions of essential oils in vitro, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you can use it in vivo, especially not taking it internally. So we still have very limited applications, but of course this is a very big emerging field of medical research and development. I believe that probably within a few years we're going to be seeing some kind of hybrid medications that are coming out that have some compounds from essential oils that have been found, that there has been a method of administration that has been found, discovered, and worked out so that those compounds can be taken internally in some safe way, so that there's a delivery system, so that those compounds are actually going to get through the digestive tract without destroying it, into the bloodstream, into the cells, and so forth. So I think that we're going to see some resolution of these limited uses. But for just essential oils, aromatherapy as we have it now, the best place for using essential oils is for the respiratory infections. Of course, they work very well for this. And the aromatic herbs as teas work very well for the digestive and the respiratory. So that's how we can break it down. Essential oils, lungs, respiratory infections, lots of oils to choose from, but some of the most well-known with some of the strongest antimicrobial effects: tea tree, Ravensar, Niuli, which is a type of tea tree. Lavender is nicely antimicrobial. Some of the stronger spices like oregano and thyme, and others. Possible combinations for upper respiratory infections: you can take a tablespoon of elderberry syrup, which is antiviral and immune enhancing, with a dropper of the tincture of echinacea, which is immune stimulant. And you can take that with Tulsi ginger tea, which is antimicrobial for the digestive and the respiratory system. And then you can do steam inhalation of eucalyptus, tea tree, and Ravensar. Ravensar is one of the best antivirals for upper respiratory infection. A very effective formula: food poisoning, 1/4 teaspoon golden seal powder, strong antimicrobial herb. Take it with ginger tea, which is also antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory as well. Small doses of that throughout the day, 3 to 6 times a day. And then you can do an abdominal compress with lavender essential oil to calm things down. Okay, can I go any faster? Cholagogue herbs promote digestive function. They support detoxification of the liver and the whole body, actually. And they increase peristalsis in the GI tract by stimulating the bile flow. These are herbs that are generally bitter. There are things like gentian, very bitter, artichoke leaf, barberry, turmeric has mild cholagogic effect, burdock root is cholagogic, andrographis, things like this. Now, do essential oils have cholagogic effects? No, because we can't take them internally. You may end up having cholagogic effects as your liver goes into some kind of highly inflamed state if you take them, but most likely we should just stay away from all of that. Now, the aromatic teas, on the other hand, can support the cholagogic actions, and many times the aromatic herbs are combined with the cholagogic herbs in bitters formulas. So bitters formulas, digestive bitters as they are called, have a very important place in herbal medicine. And those are taken to stimulate the bile flow, increase the peristalsis, help with chronic stagnation in the colon, help to detoxify, improve assimilation of nutrients. Many, many things can be benefited by taking digestive bitters. And sometimes you will see that the aromatic herbs and even a little bit of essential oil might be put into those bitters formulas to help harmonize the bitter herb as it goes through the digestive tract. So the aromatic herbs are digestive in this particular function. They're not cholagogic. So the essential oils are an adjunct treatment. Now we come to laxatives. Are essential oils laxative? No, absolutely not. There's different kinds of laxatives, things like stimulant laxatives like senna and rhubarb root, bulking laxatives like slippery elm and flaxseed and marshmallow. Now basically the stimulant laxatives and the purgatives should not be taken unless they're really needed. And we always want to start with something milder, like the bulking laxatives, like slippery almond flaxseed. Start with those, because frequently laxatives are contraindicated. And frequently people think, I need a laxative, but a laxative is contraindicated in their particular condition, because having a laxative effect could inflame the underlying condition that the person is trying to detox from. So there's a lot of confusion about detoxing through the colon. And a lot of times people think, well, I really need to detox and I really need to flush out the colon. But really what's happening is that they've got a condition where if they were to flush, use detoxification methods, anything with stimulant laxative properties, it's going to make the condition worse. So there's a lot of misunderstanding here, but the aromatic herbs, again, are frequently found in detox laxative formulas because they help with the digestive system. Now, what we can say for sure is that the essential oils are very good for abdominal massage, for helping with constipation. And so what we see then is the research shows that if you do abdominal massage with essential oils, and it can be practically anything that's relaxing, it's going to help. And so my suggestion is that you do aromatherapy massage on the abdomen before you try laxative stimulant herbs, because you may be able to just take care of the constipation and the stagnation just with an abdominal massage with relaxing oils. Here's a constipation synergy. And again, it's different classes of oils. Some are going to stimulate peristalsis. Fennel, ginger, black pepper. Some are anti-inflammatory, some are antispasmodic. Excuse me. You're going to take a little bit of each one. So basically, 1 or 2 drops from each. I'm sorry, 1 or 2 of each oil from each category. I think that's self-explanatory, but you can just read through that. That's giving you a lot of potential recipes. Let me just go through it quickly now. We're going to look at the immune modulating herbs. Immune modulating means that it basically harmonizes the immune system. If it's overactive, in the case of allergies, it brings it down. If it's deficient, in the case of a weak resistance, it brings it up. And so here's a list of the main immune modulating herbs: reishi mushrooms and the other medicinal mushrooms, ashwagandha, eleuthero, elderberry, things like that. Okay. Now, aromatherapy, in general, it has immune modulating effects in a massage or bath or diffuser, but we can't actually say this essential oil actually regulates your immune system in the same way that the herbs do. We can say that some of the essential oils may have some immune stimulating functions. This is the basic topic of immune stimulating. You have the immune stimulating herbs, and the question arises, do the essential oils stimulate? No, maybe, yes. It depends on the oil and the application. What we know is that they're strongly antimicrobial, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have any effect on your immune system. However, what I would say is that from my experience, that if people have a susceptibility and a weakness where they're getting repeated colds and flus, and they start using essential oils in their diffuser, one of the most common testimonials that I have heard is, I used to get a lot of colds and flus. Now, there's no real way to explain that except through empirical evidence that if you are around essential oil vapors, it not only has a very beneficial effect on decongesting the lungs, it seems to also regulate the mucous membrane terrain of the lungs, which seems to indirectly benefit the bacterial ecology, the microbial ecology of the lungs, which translates into enhanced immune function at the respiratory level. So did the essential oils do that? Well, they attack the pathogens. They help to regulate the terrain. They help to get rid of excess congestion. So yes, the end result is immune enhancement, but through a lot of different mechanisms. And that's how I think we can say that essential oils support the immune system. Not directly, through many different mechanisms. Okay, let's see. Oh, we're into the last couple of categories here: adaptogen, trophorestorative, and neuroendocrine regulating herbs. These are all very closely related. So an adaptogen is basically an herb that helps us to adapt to stress, and I gave you several different definitions of it here. Some of them work on the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Some work on the combination of the sympathetic nervous system and the adrenal system. That's a very popular dysfunction these days. So these are neuroendocrine regulators. They regulate and harmonize the relationship between the endocrine system and the nervous system, basically. So the herbs do this very well, and you'll see that these include the major adaptogenic herbs: ginseng, Chinese ginseng, American ginseng. Asparagus root is very big in Ayurvedic medicine. Astragalus, which is also a good immune tonic. Ashwagandha again. Rhodiola is very famous adaptogen, and so forth. There's other types of adaptogens as well. Medicinal mushrooms are adaptogenic. Now the question again comes, are the essential oils adaptogenic? And I would say not in the same way. And the primary reason is because the adaptogenic herbs work through nutrition. They are nutritive tonics that give food to the endocrine system and the nervous system. Essential oils do not give food. Essential oils have no nutritive value. I'll say that again. Essential oils have no nutritive value. And I hope that you understand the implications of that, because if they have no nutritive value, that's a really good reason to not take them internally. So what do they do? Well, aromatherapy for general relaxation basically accomplishes some of the same objectives therapeutically as what the herbs do, because an aromatherapy massage will relax the nervous system, which will have a positive influence on the endocrine system, which will then support the immune system. So aromatherapy massage is going to have positive effects on our neuroendocrine balance. But again, the question will come, is there a specific oil that's better than others? Or is it really just the benefits of the massage or the relaxing bath? Well, I would vote for the flowers. Floral oils that are not so sweet: lavender, geranium, and neroli. These would be the ones that I would say come closest to having adaptogenic powers that are similar by definition to what the herbs do. Now, trophorestoratives are those that help to balance a specific tissue or a system. I'm just going to scan through here. For example, the milky oat seed tincture, very nutritive for the nervous system. Hawthorn tincture, very nutritive for the cardiac system. But are essential oils trophorestorative? No. Excuse me. Are they beneficial? In a secondary way. So for example, for a burned out nervous system, aromatherapy, massage, and bath are major adjunct treatments that you can use along with your milky oat tincture. But if you are recovering from a heart attack, is aromatherapy going to be a significant treatment? Not really. It can be pleasant palliative, but it's not going to give nutrition to the heart and muscle. That's what the Hawthorn does. Hawthorn tincture strengthens the cardiac muscle through nutrition. All right, I'm just going to read the titles, and you can finish this on your own time because there's not too much information. Anti-inflammatory, and the herbs are given according to system. Essential oils, if used correctly, can be supportive for anti-inflammatory purposes, but keep in mind the primary adverse reaction when essential oils are not used correctly, they are pro-inflammatory. There's a long list of essential oils that are considered anti-inflammatory. The flowers, such as chamomile or helichrysum or geranium, I would say definitely anti-inflammatory. The respiratory oils, eucalyptus. You can actually feel its anti-inflammatory power when you breathe eucalyptus. It feels cooling. It feels like a menthol cooling anti-inflammatory type of property. So yes, but use them correctly. Here's a few sample combinations. This is one that's very medical, and if you need this, I'm very sorry, but this is a very painful condition, and this is a very compassionate formula here. Highly effective for shingles and post-herpetic pain. If you get shingles, you want to get rid of it as quickly as possible. You want it to heal up. It's still going to take several weeks, but the main objective is you want to make sure it does not come back and it does not linger. May I suggest 1 dropper of St. John's wort tincture, which you will see is a nerve anti-inflammatory, 2 to 4 times a day, with lemon balm tea, which is a specific antiviral that works against the herpes zoster. And then a compress or a salve with lemon balm essential oil and Ravensar, and you will remember, this is your little quiz. What's an essential oil with major antiviral powers? It is Ravensar. Very good. Okay, I believe, we have one last category, the emmenagogue and the uterine tonics, but we are far over our time, and so I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to leave 1 page for you to study on your own. But as you can see, there's a lot of information here. I just wanted to give you the overview and lots of lists. You have a whole complete system now. And as far as I know, this is one of the first presentations in the history of medicine that combines essential oils with herbs according to these calendars. So you have just attended something of historical importance. And so with that, Paula, I will turn it back to you.
I'm really honored to be part of a historical presentation, David. Thank you very much for this.
Be able to give it. And I will mention to people that not only is there a lot of information here, but this is actually the beginning of a larger project that I am working on, because I think this could actually turn into a really extended course or a large textbook or something like this, because at this particular point, aromatherapy and herbal medicine are still very separated, and they don't need to be. I know that individual clinicians sometimes mix things together just kind of intuitively or based on their own personal preference, but there's nothing that's really systematic. And so this is something that I think could turn into a very big project with a lot of information that could possibly really help to clarify about how to use essential oils very effectively. So thank you for the inspiration and the opportunity to give the presentation.
Well, I'm very pleased to hear that you're going to develop this into a course and potentially a book. The essential oil world needs you, David. The amount of risks that people are taking, the misinformation that's out there, the misuse of them, the injuries that are taking place are profound and really unnecessary. So combining this and getting this information, I'll do whatever Hawthorn can and I can to support this endeavor.
Thank you.
And as you make progress in this project, we'll have you back from time to time to keep us informed of this essential work that you're doing.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody listening in for your interest in this, and I hope that you found it valuable. And please use the essential oils safely. And even though I've given you some sample combinations, don't experiment too much without doing a little further research, especially if you are on medications. Be careful, because there are some herbs that, for the most part, herb-drug interactions are quite rare. But some herbs, if you are on a number of medications, can be a bit problematic. For example, taking the St. John's wort if you are on, 1 or 2 antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications. Do some further research before you take herbs, and do a little bit further research. But for the most part, the sample combinations are very safe, very general, very effective, enjoyable, and you can then try to understand the logic. And I think it should be fairly clear that you have groups of herbs, you have groups of oils, different ways of putting them together. And so really this could potentially give you hundreds and hundreds of potential recipes to use for various things. So enjoy it, Just use it safely.
Thank you, David. Would you show your last page for a minute while I do the closing comments?
Yes, of course. We are talking about emmenagogue and uterine tonics.
I believe so, yes. Yeah, that's the last page. And before I get to one question, I want to get to Celia because she stayed up all night from Nigeria to hear this. So can fenugreek be used as an expectorant?
Yes.
There you go, Celia.
Thank you for staying up all night. Nigeria, and yes, that is one of its known therapeutic benefits.
All right, terrific. All right, everybody, there was a lot of information here, and I'm pleased to let you know that this webinar was recorded, and it'll be available on Hawthorn's website in just a few days. You can find it under archived webinars on the top scroll bar on the top of the menu at the front page. So you'll have this presentation, and all of David's previous presentations will be in there as well if you want to refresh yourself on the incredible information that was in those two presentations also. There's a survey to fill out as usual at the end of the webinar. Thanks for taking a couple minutes for that. And I invite you to join us for our next webinar on Tuesday, November 7th with Dr. Christy Tompkins, naturopath. She'll be bringing us the latest functional medicine information on thyroid hormone health. We'll start promptly at 4 o'clock. And a reminder, our next All About Alumni is tomorrow, Wednesday, October 4th at noon Pacific time. And we have grad Kira Bramble presenting on her most flavorful post-graduation activities. Really, it'll be fabulous. She's a chef, and it's a very colorful presentation. So join us for that. And that brings us to the conclusion of today's presentation. Thank you again, David, for all this information and the work you do in the world.
Thank you again.
Sure. I wish everybody the best of health and look forward to learning more together at our webinars and our All About Alumni and our regular coursework at Hawthorn. Take care, everybody.